stick with the secondary. Chandon Sullivan told Steelers Takeaways the other day that during his exit interview with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they informed him that they would like to continue to do business with him. He's obviously a free agent. He said that he played a lot less than he expected to play this past season, but still feels like he made the most out of it. I felt like Chandon Sullivan played a pretty decent role for what the Pittsburgh Steelers were looking for. They were looking for a lot of chess pieces. Sullivan was a guy that could come in here and, I mean, I didn't have high expectations for Chandon Sullivan. I really didn't. I looked at him as a guy that everybody talked about when he was leaving Minnesota and Green Bay as, no, this guy's not that good. You know, if you go watch the tape, it's concerning. I thought he filled in quite well for the position and the role that they were looking for. Obviously, they could have gotten a little bit more, and maybe they're thinking about getting a little bit more, but you hear that Chandon Sullivan could re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you were them, would you make that your top priority, or are you going hunting in free agency looking for something else?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is there, I mean, so free agency is one thing, but is there a reason why re-signing Levi Wallace for like a little bit of a discount? I know he made a bunch more money this year, like, isn't a better option? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't super impressed.
Is Levi
with,
going to the slot? Are you moving Levi to the slot?
I mean, do you, like, I
don't know.
Like, I'm not worried about. Yeah, I guess so. But, like, you know, can you put Elijah Riley there? Can Elijah Riley take some snaps as a slot corner? I don't know. He did that during training camp a little bit. I don't know. I just wasn't impressed with Chandon Sullivan really at all this season. I can't really remember a point where he stuck out, which I don't know. I guess for a DB isn't the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. I guess if you can sign him for real cheap, I mean, having a veteran guy there isn't that bad, but I don't know. It feels, I don't even know, because I feel like safe isn't the right word, because I don't think you really know what you get in Chandon Sullivan if you're throwing him out there for a bunch of snaps. But I guess it could work. I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I don't know if it would excite me. And I just, you know, I'm not sure who else is out there, to be quite honest. You know, like, who's out there that, who's out there with better slot experience that can. So I don't know. It feels very muted to me. I don't know. I'm not super excited by Chandon Sullivan, but I guess it works. The more I think about it, it's really. I guess the biggest benefit is that he's cheap. You know, like you wouldn't have to think about it if you're signing him for $1 million, $2 million. Like, who cares? You know.
I agree, but I see where you're coming from. You know, like, why would you, if there are other options that are also going to be cheap, why would you just not go with the best option available? You know, for the price tag of very little. I agree with that. I don't think I thought Chandon Sullivan played better than my expectations were. I don't know. I wouldn't sit here and say Chandon Sullivan is the top guy on the market. He's the guy that you have to go get. He fixes I don't even know if he fixes one issue. Like, maybe he's not your best bet. We were Elijah Riley guys through the preseason and training camp. That guy should have started at the slot. Maybe he wouldn't have played as well as Chandon Sullivan once we got into games against the Cincinnati Bengals and so on and so forth. But I do think that he's an option. Kenny Moore, I think, is the top option. Like, if the Steelers are really looking to make a splash and say, hey, we need a slot guy. We're tired of just like signing these guys that aren't working out well. Kenny Moore is your guy. He is he's an all-pro. He's a dude who makes plays in that position. He is one of the best that you can go get in that position. I think that's the splash that I'm going to make, and I'm not even thinking twice about it, especially if he's affordable. Like, if you could sign Levi Wallace to be your CB3 and make him, you know, he makes almost no money, and then you have Joey Porter Jr. and you draft another guy and look at that as, our corners are cheap, very cheap. Go get Kenny Moore. Go pay a little bit more for Kenny Moore. Plug him into the slot. I'm all about that. Like, I think that's their top option. Let me toss another name out there. You think Arthur Maulet would consider coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers after the way things ended here?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah, because it kind of was. It was a little bit of. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember it was kind of a "don't let the door hit you on the way out" type of deal. I think the Steel. I mean, Do you think this, because he was bad here in Pittsburgh? Like I don't know. Like it wasn't like the Steelers weren't justified for saying, hey, we want to move on.
Yeah.
But Arthur Millette did have a good season. I don't know. Hey,
He was phenomenal in Baltimore. Was not
yeah,
good. I
he
mean,
was
you can't.
really
He
good.
was not good in Pitt. Like, he was like he was. He had his moments in Pittsburgh. I think he was more reliable than maybe Chandon Sullivan was in different areas. But I mean, he was nowhere near how good he was in Baltimore
That's
than
what I'm saying.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because I assume if he comes back, he's like gonna add some emotional damages onto his contract demands. You know, like he is going. If you get what I'm saying, like he is
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
He's gonna ask for a little bit more money just because it is the Steelers. You know.
Yes. Yes.
So
I agree.
I think that I don't know. I guess that comes down to what is Kenny Moore gonna get? Because Kenny Moore, I agree, he would be awesome. Like that would
Yes.
be ideal. But what's the difference between an Arthur Millette versus a Kenny Moore going to be? Because I feel like if Arthur Millette's asking for, well, let's think, $4 million a year,
Yeah, I'd
or
say
more than that.
four is a good number. Kenny
I
made
feel it.
just for reference, Kenny made $8 million in 2023. So I would imagine he's just about that same number in 2024. I don't think
Yeah,
Maulet made much at all in 2023. He made, I just had him here and I scrolled by him. He made $1 million. So I'd imagine he's 2, maybe 3, depending on, because he did have a good year. So that price tag's probably going to go up a little bit, but I would say 2, no more than 3. Kenny's probably right around that 8 number.
yeah, and if you assume a little, like, if you're assuming a little bump just because he's going to demand more from the Steelers, and if the Steelers really want him, they would pay it. But like, if you're going north of 3, I feel like you would just. I would rather go get Kenny Moore for the 8.
Yes. I agree. Make a splash, just break it down like real. If you go get Eddie Jackson, just to tie everything together, if you go get Eddie Jackson and you say you're signing Eddie Jackson for, he's already making 5. Let's say you sign Eddie Jackson for, let's just say 10. Let's say 10's the number. And I think 10 might be high, but let's just say 10's the number.
You think 10 might be high?
Yeah, 30 years old. I just,
okay.
I think when he signed his last deal, it was like $14 million a year made sense when you were 27. When you're 30 years old, just depending on how especially missing games in the past 2 seasons, I feel like 10's a good number. Maybe 8 of that is a salary cap hit. The other is a signing bonus. So you don't have to worry. So let's say $8 million hit from Eddie Jackson. Kenny Moore, you're signing for 8, and $6 million of that is a cap hit. You've just spent, what's that, $14 million on 2, like that's a L'Jarius Sneed. Like you just filled 2 holes with L'Jarius Sneed for what you would get L'Jarius Sneed for. Go get a corner in the draft. I mean, dude, your defense is looking good. Like your defense is looking real good. You got to figure out your inside linebacker position. But I'm not like, people keep bringing that up, and I think yes, definitely. Landon Roberts is a starter in 2024. There's 0 questions asked. And if Cole Holcomb's healthy, Cole Holcomb looked good before he got hurt. If he could stay healthy, that's awesome. And then if you could draft somebody in the 2nd or the 3rd round, that guy from Texas A&M, the Steelers are reportedly all over. Maybe that's a name to watch. Like they're at that point, like your defense looks scary, and all holes filled with no gaps, with no Levi Wallace
Right.
is your gap as your CB3. That's okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's every defense. Like your backup corners are your backup corners for a reason.
Exactly. I think that would work out very well. I think there are other options than to re-sign Chandon Sullivan. I just, I don't know if I don't think Mike Hilton's a free agent. I think that's next year. That would have been awesome. That's the, bring Mike. I'm all about Mike Hilton all the time. He's my favorite player outside of Cam Sutton to ever come through the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. Hands down.